You've probably pulled up next to a truck at a stoplight and watched the driver work a gear shift like it's second nature, wrist flicking through a pattern you couldn't follow if you tried. You assumed that was disappearing. Automatics took over everywhere else. But somewhere out there right now, a driver just turned down a brand new automatic Freightliner for a used truck with an 18-speed manual and 3 pedals on the floor. So what does he know that you don't? Right now, close to 80% of new long-haul trucks roll off the factory line with an automated transmission. No clutch, no stick, nothing to grind or miss. And yet drivers keep circling back to the 18-speed manual, the same gearbox their fathers learned on. You'd assume that's stubbornness. It isn't. There are 4 reasons this is happening, and you've probably only ever heard the first one. Start with the one drivers say out loud when you ask them. Control. It sounds like pride, like an old-timer clinging to a skill nobody needs anymore. It isn't. Control in an 18-speed is a measurable engineering advantage, not a feeling, and it shows up the moment a load gets serious. Here's what that gearbox actually is, in case you've never thought about it. A 5-speed main box, a range selector that doubles every gear into low or high, and a splitter that splits each of those again. 5 times 2 times 2, 18 forward ratios. Down at the bottom sit crawler gears deep enough to launch 80,000 pounds from a dead stop on a grade. Up top, overdrive for cruising. In between, exact control over every revolution of the engine. But here's what you almost certainly don't know. The flagship automated transmission built for heavy haul is, by the manufacturer's own description, built directly on top of that same 18-speed manual design. The industry's automated future is the old gearbox, with a robot bolted on. And that robot has a problem the moment you actually need to move. By the manufacturer's own admission, an automated transmission has to cut engine torque at launch to protect its clutch. Picture yourself in that seat, loaded heavy, stopped on a grade, needing every ounce of torque the engine has, and the transmission throttles you back. You don't get a say in it. On soft ground, the same system can overheat and cut power to protect itself. That's not a complaint from an old-timer. That's written into the engineering. Now, picture the other side of that coin. A misjudged shift on an icy descent locks the drive axle. 80,000 pounds slides. So when a driver tells you he wants control, what he's really telling you is that being wrong costs too much to hand off to software that pulls back power at the exact moment it matters most. If it were only about control, you could stop listening here. You can't. Because the real fight isn't happening on the road. It's happening on the repair bill. An automated transmission costs $1,500 to $2,000 more at the order desk. That's the smallest number you're about to hear. A manual 18-speed has gears, shafts, and a clutch. 3 categories of parts refined for 60 straight years and about as close to bulletproof as trucking gets. An automated transmission keeps all of that and adds actuators, sensors, a control unit, wiring, and software. Every addition is something that can fail, and a lot of smaller repair shops don't carry the tools to diagnose them. Here's the number that actually moves fleet decisions. A clutch failure on an automated transmission can cost thousands of dollars a day in downtime before a single part even gets replaced. For an owner-operator, downtime isn't an inconvenience. It's the entire business standing still. A week waiting on a part from a regional warehouse is the difference between him making the truck payment and missing it. Now, stack that against a manual. A clutch job runs a few $1,000s. A full rebuild costs more, but there's nothing to diagnose with a laptop. You drop the box, look at the worn parts, and replace them. Older mechanics can do the whole job in a barn with hand tools. No dealership appointment, no waiting on a part shipped in from 3 states away. So the manual isn't cheaper, because it's simple. It's cheaper because it fails in ways a wrench can fix, instead of ways that shut the truck down completely until a specialist shows up. But the money isn't even the strangest part of what you're about to hear. Because the real reason this fight keeps getting worse runs through a rule you've probably never heard of, written back when almost nobody driving today was even born. Federal regulators created something called an automatic restriction. If a driver tests for his license in a vehicle without a clutch and a gear shift, that license bars him from ever operating a manual transmission again, unless he goes back and retests. Commercial driving schools, racing to get new drivers licensed faster and cheaper, train almost exclusively on automatics now. A brand new license holder can walk out of school today, legally unable to drive the exact truck that owner-operator just bought. The pool of drivers who can legally run a manual is shrinking in front of you, not because nobody wants to learn, but because the pipeline that produces licenses stopped producing the kind that allow it. A driver has to actively choose to test on a manual now, and most never even know that choice exists until it's already too late to make it. And the company that built the classic 18-speed has already started phasing that gearbox out of production entirely. The manual isn't dying because drivers stopped wanting it. It's dying because the system that trains them stopped teaching it. There's one more piece pushing this whole thing forward, and it's about to hit every truck you see on the highway. New emissions rules are coming that will cut allowed engine emissions by a huge margin within the next couple of years. To meet them, manufacturers are adding a new layer of compliance hardware onto every engine that leaves the factory, and industry estimates put the added cost at tens of thousands of dollars per truck. For an owner-operator running on pennies per mile margins, that's not a price bump to him. That's a truck he can no longer afford to buy new. So he's buying older iron instead. Pre-emissions, Peterbilts, Kenworths, Freightliners built before the deadline, trucks that were never designed with any of this compliance hardware in mind. And almost every one of those older trucks has a manual transmission sitting behind the seat, because that's simply what the factories were building back then. So the next time you see a driver walk past a brand new automatic and climb into something older, understand what you're actually watching. Not nostalgia dressed up as stubbornness. 4 separate pressures landing on the same gearbox at once, quietly without any headline announcing it. A transmission that won't throttle him on a grade. A repair bill a barn mechanic can fix. A licensing system quietly narrowing who's allowed to drive one. And an emissions deadline pushing him toward the exact truck that still has one bolted under the floor. Put those 4 things together, and his refusal stops looking like pride to you. It starts looking like the only decision that actually makes sense once you've done the math yourself. He's still out there tonight, in that old manual, feeling every shift through his hand instead of watching a screen make the decision for him. If you ask him whether he'd trade it for the automatic sitting 3 spots down, he won't even look up from the shifter to answer you.